some updates from the courts. The rescheduled arraignment of the suspended Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele and an employee of CBN SaadatuYaro has been stalled for a second time. The arraignment, which was earlier adjourned to today, is not listed on the case list. Judiciary correspondent Celestina Iria reports.
Unlike on the 17th of August when the matter came up, the courtroom was filled to its capacity and its environs surrounded by men of the DSS. Today, neither the suspended CBN governor nor his counsel were in court. The prosecution counsel was also absent from court. TVC News gathered that Mr. Emefiele is trying to enter a plea agreement with the federal government, and his absence from court is to enable both parties to come to terms of agreement. Mr. Emefiele, alongside SaadatuYaro, is facing a 20-count charge of illegal procurement of over 98 vehicles and armored buses to the tune of 9.6 billion naira. Meanwhile, Justice Edward Ekpo has struck out a fundamental right enforcement suit filed by Judge Emefiele and Okante Emefiele, praying the court for an order stopping the federal government or any of its agencies from arresting them in connection with the investigation against the suspended CBN governor. At the resumed sitting, the applicants filed a notice of discontinuance in the suit and against the respondents. Counsel to the DSS, David Awo, prayed the court to dismiss and not strike out the suit as parties have joined issues. On her part, the Director of Civil Litigation of the Federal Ministry of Justice also prayed the court to dismiss and not strike out the suit. She also prayed the court to award a cost of 2 million naira against the respondents, in line with Orders 2 Rule 1 of the FCT High Court Civil Procedures Rule. Justice Ekpo held that the court has the discretion to strike out any suit sought to be discontinued. He subsequently struck out the suit. No date was given for the arraignment of the suspended CBN governor Godwin Emefiele for him to take his plea, as the matter could not be heard today. Celestina Iria, TVC News, Abuja.
Celestina joins me live from Abuja. What more are you learning about this proposed plea bargain between the plea arrangement between the suspended CBN governor and the federal government?
Well, Nifemi, we haven't heard anything directly from the from the DSS, or the federal government, but feelers, reports, and from credible sources, suspended CBN governor is having talks with the federal government on entry a plea bargain agreement, yes, which is allowed by law, looking at section 270, subsection 1 and 2 of the ACJ, that says that the defendants can decide to enter a agreement with the federal government or the prosecution, or B says that the prosecution can decide to offer the defendants a plea agreement. But in this case, it's the suspended CBN governor that is trying to enter a plea agreement with the federal government. Well, all we know and what is the fact and open space is the fact that they have a 20-count charge of illegal procurement of vehicles to the tune of 9.6 billion naira. The last adjourned date, we were told by the prosecuting counsel that SaadatuYaro, an employee of the CBN, that the federal government alleged Mr. Emefiele used to procure these vehicles illegally, because SaadatuYaro is an employee of the CBN, and also the company that bought these vehicles, Saadatu, happens to be a director in that company, thereby breaching the procurement laws and acts, which is contrary to the procurement law section 19. So these were the facts that is before the court and in open domain. She suddenly took ill on the 17th of August, which was the first day scheduled for the arraignment. An arraignment could not go on, and adjournment was done till today. But unfortunately, Mr. Emefiele was not in court. His counsel was not in court. The counsel to the federal government was not in court.
Right.
But however, opposite Justice Hamza's Waz's court is the court of Justice Ekpo. He struck out the suit filed by Godwin Emefiele's brothers, trying to stop the federal government from arresting them in connection to the investigation as it relates to Mr. Godwin Emefiele. Jordan Emefiele and Okante Emefiele had approached the FCT High Court initially, seeking an order restraining the federal government or any of its agencies. But suddenly today, they decided to discontinue with the case.
Right.
And they prayed the court to strike out the matter, and which the court did today.
Celestina Iria live for us from Abuja. Let's return to our coverage of Governor Sanwo-Olu's cabinet. We understand that the Lagos State House of Assembly has rejected 17 has disqualified 17 out of the 39 commissioner nominees sent to the House. I'm joined now by Chief Whip of the Lagos State House of Assembly. He was chairman of the 12-man ad hoc committee that presided over the screening exercise, Honorable Fatai Mojid. Thank you for joining us on TVC News at 7. What is responsible for this rather unprecedented move on the part of the lawmakers?
Hello, good evening. My name is Honorable Mojid Fatai, chairman of ad hoc committee. So actually, I said it at my inaugural meeting that our mandate is just to screen the nominee, not to confirm or disqualify anybody. And thank God today that the committee of 42 decision on whom to confirm and on whom to reject. The reason behind the rejection is best known to the 40 members, not as an individual.
So precisely on what basis were these 17 nominees disqualified? Because you chaired the committee that oversaw this process.
When we, as I've said, our duty is just to look at their records. So we determine whether the disqualification has to do with decision of the ORs, not me as an individual, not me as a chairman. As I've said at the inaugural meeting, our duty is to screen and make our reports to the committee, which we have discussed with the 40 members of the House.
The committee, as we understand, interacted with these nominees. Let's take, for instance, the former Commissioner for Health, who, chaired the Lagos State, who championed the Lagos State effort during the COVID-19 era. You screened him, right? What was wrong with him? Why was he rejected?
My dear brother, I said decision was taken by the 40 members, not as an individual. The reason behind this disqualification, it has nothing to do to me personally, but it has to do with committee of the 40. So the reason or no reason, I don't think I'm in a position to share it with anybody as the chairman of the committee.